Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavatu arahato samma sambuddhassa. Before I start the talk, I would like to spend a minute to pay our tribute to late Chief Venerable K. Sri Dhammananda Nayaka Maha Thera, and also Venerable late K. Madhavala Punnaji Maha Thera, and also our beloved sister who recently passed away, Reverend Sister Bodhi. Thinking about all these departed teachers, we will pay our tribute, our honor, and our respect, our gratitude to all of them. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Venerable Samaneras and Venerable Upasikas and dear friends in the Dhamma, I'm very glad to be here today, to be part of the Novitiate program. I know about this program, but this is the first time that I have come to teach, being part of this. Because December is not the usual month that I travel to Malaysia, but this time I'm so glad that I got this opportunity. So today we are going to spend some time on discussing the benefits of meditation. It's a large topic, but let us try to limit it to most important parts of that. As the beginning of the talk, as a way of really understand the benefits of meditation, which is really about our living, our proper living, our meaningful life. I would like to share a story that I read in the book called Art of Living by S.N. Goenka. Have you read that book, Art of Living by S.N. Goenka? Yes, at the very beginning of that book, there's this interesting story. Some of you may have heard about it, but I think it's important for us to reflect on that. Goenka-ji is explaining the importance of meditation and also the benefits of meditation. That is story. So let me share that story. It's a conversation happened between a professor, a learned person who has taken a cruise in a ship. And there was the servant, a boy, who is serving the drinks and other refreshments. So every evening, this professor will sit down with his colleagues and other people, and will have a very interesting discussion, about serious topics. So this boy used to come around them and treat them and serve them drinks and other refreshments. And so once in a while, this professor will talk with this boy and ask him questions. So the biggest professor is, well educated, and he talks always about very sophisticated topics. So one he asked him about, do you know astronomy? From this boy, servant boy, do you know astronomy? And boy had no clue about it. And I said, what is that? The science of the stars. Do you know we are living on a star? Science of the stars, all the planets. Don't you know about it? And he said, sorry, Professor, I didn't have much, education, so I didn't know much about it, And he said that you are living on earth, and, you are living on this earth. If you do not know astronomy, quarter of your life is wasted. Because, you should know where we are living, our universe, these planets and planetary systems and stars. If you do not know anything about it, quarter of your life is wasted. And this little boy, this boy say, and feel very sorry about himself. And then he went away. And the second day also, that evening, the professor started his, circle of discussion, and everyone is sitting there, and this boy was serving. And this second day, this professor asked another question. And yesterday was astronomy, and this time he asked, okay, do you know geography? Again, this boy has no idea, and he asked, what is that? It is the science of the earth. It's okay that if you don't know about all the planets, but how about the planet that you are living on? The different, terrains of this earth, what kind of, shapes and what kind of things we have in this, earth. Do you know geography? And he said, no. Again, he said, if you do not know about the planet that you are living on, and another quarter of your life is wasted. Then half of his life is wasted now. Because you don't know about, this planet that you are living on. You should know where you live on, what's the, age, what is the, all the details. And then he was so unhappy about himself. And the third day also, they are having that, meeting again. This boy is bringing the drinks. And that day also, this professor had the question. And this time he asked, okay, boy, tell me, do you know the oceanography? Oceanography. And he said, what is that? He said, science of the ocean. And how the really ocean functions. What are the details of the function? He said, no, I'm sorry, Professor, I didn't know. And he said that you are working on a ship, and you're always on the ocean, and you have witnessed all these, the patterns of the ocean, and you don't know about them. And he said, I haven't studied them formally. And he said, you are always on the ocean, and the ocean is a part of the planet. If you don't know about it, another quarter of your life is wasted. Now 3/4 of his life is wasted now. Now the fourth day, when these professors are getting for that discussion, there was some chaotic situation in the ship. Everyone is moving around, and everyone looks very scared and not settled. And this boy ran towards this professor. And before professor asked the question on that evening, this boy asked a simple question from the professor. Professor, do you know how to swim? And professor said, why are you asking? I don't know how to swim. I didn't get, any chance to learn about swim. And he said that, our ship has hit, some iceberg, and it is slowly, leaking and sinking. Now people are going to, try to save their life with the lifeboats, and people who can swim can save their life. And don't you know how to swim? Swimology, And the professor said, I don't know how to swim. And then the boy said, in that case, I'm very sorry, Professor. Whole of your life will be wasted soon. Because if you don't know how to swim, and we are all going to be in trouble. So the Goenkaji is explaining that you can be very educated and knowledgeable and have all kinds of knowledge, but if you don't know, if you don't have a practical knowledge how to live, like how to swim, and your life will be definitely wasted. So he's comparing the ability to swim through the different currents of the water is the similar ability that we will get as a part of our meditation practice. because life is full of currents, full of different changing conditions, just like in the ocean. There will be different storms and different waves, different weather patterns, and so if you know how to swim, we will manage through. And so one benefit of meditation will be knowing how to move through our life, just like the ability to swim. So that will be the benefit of meditation. So it's not about theoretical knowledge, but actually about really practical knowledge about how to live well and how to live through the difficulties in our life, and how to understand different challenges and difficulties, and how to respond to our difficulties and challenges. And that is the real benefit of meditation. And of course, there are many other benefits also when we engage in deeper practices. But ultimately, that the meditation should help us to live our life well and with a deeper sense of calmness within us, and also very deeper insights within us. So before we go into details, I think we have to clarify what do we mean by the term meditation. Because the term meditation can be very elusive. People can mean different things by the term meditation. But the original Pali term that we use, that has been translated to English as meditation, is what? I think you should know about it, right? What is the original term? Original Pali term? Exactly. Bhavana. That is what we commonly translated as meditation. But the term bhavana itself has a little bit deeper meaning than meditation. The bhavana literally means cultivation. Cultivation, or bringing to forth, let's say cultivation. So it's the cultivation of the mind. And whenever we hear the term meditation, the image comes to our mind is like still sitting, right? It's still calm sitting. But when you think about cultivation of our mind, a still sitting is a part of it, but that's not the whole of it. So it's a cultivation of mind, because our mind has a lot of capacities, a lot of potentials, and they are in different degrees. So the cultivation of the mind is what we call bhavana. Actually, if you remember Bhante Punnaji's talk, and he will say that cultivation of 7 factors of enlightenment, bojjhanga, is the bhavana, cultivating of all the 7 factors of enlightenment. So when you understand bhavana in that sense, it is the growing and cultivation of tranquility, or what we call samadhi, is one part of it, but there are also other parts of it. So meditation can take various forms. It could be like silent sitting, but it could also be contemplation, reflecting on while you are really doing things. And it also could be maintaining awareness or mindfulness when you are doing your daily chores. And it could be like keeping and what we call monitoring awareness, like open monitoring awareness of whatever happening within you. And also it can be a purposeful development of wholesome qualities in our mind, like wholesome qualities of loving kindness and wholesome qualities of compassion, and purposely developing those qualities can be part of it. So therefore, sometimes meditation is about generating thoughts, because whenever we hear about meditation, sometimes people think about, quietening our mind, like subduing our thoughts. That could be part of it, definitely. But sometimes some certain meditation can involves in generating thoughts. For example, when you do loving kindness meditation, compassion meditation, we generate thoughts. And when you do meditation on death, we focus on that topic, and we generate thoughts and contemplation, reflections on those things. So it's not only about shutting down our thoughts, but it can also be generating and cultivating wholesome thoughts too. So when you think about meditation in that broader sense, and we need to also understand the benefits of meditation in that broader sense too. So I would like to share with you few benefits, then we can have a discussion. Actually, if someone wants to know the real benefit, let's say the real benefit of Buddhist meditation, because now meditation is widespread, it's not only found in Buddhist tradition, it also found in many other religious and spiritual tradition, and meditation has also become a secular practice now, so there can be so many benefits. But if you think about Buddhist meditation, the easiest way to know the benefits of Buddhist meditation is to read the first passage of Satipatthana Sutta. The Satipatthana Sutta, the Maha Satipatthana Sutta, the great discourse of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. And in that sutta, Buddha explains the benefits of Satipatthana, the key Buddhist meditation, in a very brief way. He starts with Satthanang Visuddhya, for the purification of beings. That could be one benefit. For the purification of beings, means the purification of our minds from defilements. That is the first thing. Buddha said that 4 foundations of mindfulness will help us to purify ourselves, purify our minds. So for the purification of beings, Satthanang Visuddhya, and then second one is Soka Paridhavanang Samatikkamaya. Soka Paridhavanang Samatikkamaya. That means to overcome. Soka means sorrow, lamentation. To overcome sorrow and lamentation. That is the other benefit. To overcome sorrow and lamentation. And then again, the similar one, Dukkha Domanassanang Attangamaya. For the complete eradication of dukkha and domanassa. Dukkha can mean any forms of suffering or dissatisfaction, and domanassa could be even grief, but can also mean depression. So to complete eradication of dukkha and grief or depression. And nyayasa adhigamaya. And then here is more like a positive sense, to deeply realize the true path, true method of enlightenment. To deeply realize the true method of enlightenment is also the benefit of meditation. And the last one is Nibbanasa Sachi Kiriyaya. That means personally experience the Nibbana, the enlightenment, the ultimate release. So those are the benefits, I think, if you really want to know the benefits of Buddhist meditation, these are the list given by the Buddha himself. For the purification of beings, and for the overcoming of lamentation and sorrow, for complete eradication of suffering and all forms of suffering and griefs and depressions, and then for the deep realization of the true path to release, and then ultimately personal experience in the enlightenment. Those are the benefits of meditation. I think I can stop right there, right? No need to. This is directly from the Buddha, right? But Yeah, maybe I will take few of these lines and maybe I'll try to relate to our own life how this meditation can help us. In order to understand the benefits of meditation, I think it's very good if we have some understanding of how suffering or any dissatisfaction, unhappiness arises in our mind. That is part of right understanding or right view, what we call samadhi, to understand the mechanism of how suffering arises in our mind. How dissatisfaction, unhappiness, uneasiness arises in our mind. Because what meditation is doing us to change this usual repeated cycle of producing suffering again and again. So we know that suffering arises in our mind if we have some familiarity with the Buddha's teaching. We know that suffering arises due to main cause, what we call tanha, or the self-centered craving, but it's also based on ignorance or blindness, what we call avidya. That is main cause, but there can be other, supporting conditions too, more environmental conditions. So maybe presence of a difficult situation, presence of an unpleasant situation, unfavorable situation. Right. So there can be environmental, physical situation, unfavorable situation. There can be unfriendly situation around us. There can be difficult people around us, and difficult situation, and problematic situation around us. There can be physical conditions that are not comfortable to us. So those can be, like environment where we experience, our suffering or dissatisfaction. So difficult people, unfavorable environmental situation, and uncomfortable physical conditions. But the suffering, the gravity of suffering is not determined by the difficult people who are living with us, not by the unfavorable physical situation, not by even uncomfortable physical conditions. The gravity of the suffering is determined by how we see those things, how we interpret those situations, and then how we react to those situations. Those two things, how we see those situations and how we react to this situation. That will decide the gravity of suffering that we have. So difficult situations, unfavorable situations, difficult people, and uncomfortable physical conditions, those things we cannot avoid. This is the part of our existence, part of our life, part of the impermanence. We will always find unfavorable situation. For example, today is raining. Of course, raining is a good condition, but for some purposes it may not be a favorable condition, right? So there can always be favorable, conditions. There will always be difficult people, because we are all victims of our own defilements. Until we attain enlightenment, we are living with sentient beings who are always struggling with their own weaknesses, on their own defilements, with their own ignorance. So definitely it's going to be very difficult to deal with any, the people. There will be difficult people always. And our physical body is a very fragile organism, and it's always going through different changes and difficult, ups and downs, and there will be always, uncomfortable situation in our body, and so those things we will not be able to avoid. But how we interpret, how we react to those situations will decide how much suffering we are going to have. So the meditation can help us to change Not the difficult people, not the unfavorable, conditions, or even not the uncomfortable physical conditions, but the meditation will help us to change how we see them and how we react to them. By doing that, it will decrease the level of suffering that we are experiencing. At least at the beginning, it will not, at least we will be able to reduce the gravity of the suffering, and maybe sometimes reduce the frequency of our disappointments or unhappiness. And I will just share with you my most recent experience. So I just got to Malaysia this morning. So I had a quite long flight. Actually it's 20 plus hours of travel. So I originally started my journey from Pittsburgh, and it's a 2.5 hour to first to Miami, Florida, and then from there to Doha, Qatar. It is 13.5 hour flight. Okay, from then Doha to Kuala Lumpur, about 8 hours flight. So you get the math, that is excluding the waiting hours. But anyway, so when you are sitting on a seat for 13 hours in the economy class, I got a window seat, so I was cornered. And so imagine that you are asked by someone to sit for 13 hours in a small space without moving, right? Without moving much, right? 13 hours. And how difficult for us to even sit right now, for hour. And then, and also if I want to use restroom, I had to wake up 2 people who are sitting next to me, so I rather not disturb them, right? So sitting in that corner for 13 hours is not a comfortable thing to do, right? It's not a comfortable. So I was starting to feel, uncomfortable. It's a small space, in the corner. Yeah, and even I cannot move my legs, always, like very narrow space. Sometimes knee pain, and cannot, lie straight. So anyway, sitting in that corner, I start to feel uneasy, upset. Like this is not comfortable. I'm looking at the time. Only 2 hours pass. More than 10 more hours I had to sit in this corner. Right? And also and some people are coughing around, so I get really upset about that too. Right? So when I start to feel this, okay, so this is uncomfortable, unfavorable situation. But then I was telling myself, and this is, I was like teaching myself, reminding the teachings of the Buddha, and reminding the teachings of my teachers, and try to try to give a different interpretation of this situation. So then I looked out from the window and I can see the clouds, right? So I was thinking, okay, this is uncomfortable, but why I am traveling? Why I am, and nobody has punished me to be in that corner, and I have voluntarily taken this to come here, right? So why I'm doing this? So I try to remind myself the purpose of doing this trip. Okay, I'm going to, share the teachings of the Buddha. I'm going to meet, kind and lovely people. I'm going to meet good people. So, and I'm going to serve. So when I think about that purpose, okay, it gave me some strength. Okay, because I'm doing this, I can take this. So I try to give different meaning to this difficult situation. Like not cannot move, cannot stand up. I had to stay in one posture. So, but I try to understand the meaning behind this. And then I was thinking, and it takes only 20 plus hours for me to get into Kuala Lumpur. And this is because of the development of the technology. And if I take another route, maybe ship or whatever, it will take months for me to reach here, right? And in that case, I will not be able to do this. So although this is uncomfortable, it's already an advancement. I only had to sit for 20 plus hours, not 2 months. Then I try to reinterpret and try to not to like cheat myself, but actually try to really remember the real facts. And then I was thinking, okay, so then I gave different meaning, try to understand different meaning, and so it gave me more strength to stay with the difficulty. But again, I don't want to reduce the difficulty that I'm going through at that moment. Okay, so now I give a different meaning. I can stand now. I can endure, but it's still uncomfortable. It's still painful. How to reduce that? Then I look out from the window, and in the daytime I can see the clouds. It's beautiful patterns of the clouds. I was thinking, how wonderful to stay above the cloud, right? And although it's not a comfortable, position, but it's so wonderful to stay above the clouds and see all this beautiful terrain. So I was looking at the cloud and see the different patterns and the horizon, and try to find some comfort, find some joy there. Find some joy there, how wonderful to stay above the clouds. And then I was thinking, how wonderful to sleep, right, above the clouds. Right? And we tell stories to our young children, you're like floating in the clouds, and you can, like when you say lullaby, right? And I was thinking, I can sing a lullaby to myself, and sleeping above the clouds. And then of course it got dark and it is night. Now I cannot see any clouds, and only sometimes some stars from time to time. And then I decided, okay, then how I can make myself comfortable. And then I was thinking, okay, this is a good time that I can use my training in meditation. So I start to try to feel my body, exactly feel how this seat is felt to my body. I feel where my muscles are pressed, and I feel there's a small pillar behind my lower back. I can feel that touch sensation of that little tiny pillow. It is still good at that time. And I try to feel my body and just be there. And then I try to slowly breathe and try to be with the breath. And this is the breath. This is truly happening right now, and I can be with it. I can feel the breath. I can feel the change happening with the breath. So I try to be with my body rather than looking at the time. I close the screen. I will not see the time because it will say, okay, 9 hours, 8 hours. So I stop looking at the time. I try to feel timeless by simply being with the body, being with the breath. So I try to find comfort in the breath, in the seat, it's although uncomfortable, but just when you pay attention to whatever sensation you can feel in the body, sometimes there are comfortable sensation with touch sensation with the pillow. There can be uncomfortable sensation in my knee, but whether they are pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, I just try to observe them and just feel them and be with them and try to be okay with them. That is what we do in meditation. So I was there with my breath, and I didn't realize that I have fallen asleep until I reached Doha. So somehow I managed that trip. So I'm just telling you one benefit that I experienced from my meditation training of making my difficult journey, difficult flight time, to make it somewhat endurable. First, by understand the deeper meaning, seeing it differently, and then also reacting to that differently and using the training of meditation and find some comfort there. So that could be one benefit of meditation. And whenever we are in a difficult situation, could be maybe you are hospitalized, for example. Like, have you been hospitalized? Have you been hospitalized? Yeah, in the hospital bed, right? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, is it fun? Yeah, I mean, of course, you get hospitalized due to some, ailments. But let's say you got the treatment, everything well, but you have to stay in the hospital for, doctors to check. It's not like, sleeping in your bedroom, right? It's a different situation. But even in that kind of situation, instead of like kind of worrying and asking how many more days I have to stay, maybe we can, try to reinterpret. It's how good if we have these medical facilities nowadays, right? And then be grateful to that. And then, find the training of the meditation to just be in that moment. Don't worry about, like how long I have to stay. But come to the moment and be with the moment and just, be okay with that moment. And so we may have such situation, I would say even sometime when we're stuck in the traffic, yeah, and we can find that too. So I'm giving you one very practical, benefit of meditation, but definitely the benefit of meditation is far advanced than that. But we can use it for our day-to-day life. So I would say, when we think about different types of meditation, I was just sharing with you, because how suffering arises is determined by how we interpret a difficult, unfavorable situation, how we react to that. Meditation can help us to change that, and by changing that, it will reduce our suffering. So that's the one great benefit. So therefore, that could be like benefit of mindfulness, and we develop resilience as a result of that. And if you really deeply understand the real mechanism of suffering, you need to go to dependent origination, paticca samuppada. Maybe you have learned those, the 12, links of the paticca samuppada. And if you read that, and I will just explain you one important connection. If we start with, avijja, sankhara, and come to this, these senses, and then there's a point that when our senses are functioning, there'll be sensory impression, sensory input, what you call phassa, and then after that we have what you call vedana. When we experience any sensory objects with your eye, ear, nose, or tongue, or physical, skin, the first encounter, first meeting of these sensory encounters is called phassa, sensory impingement or sensory impression, like a first initial meeting of our sensory organs and the sensory objects. But then, very quickly, we will develop what we call vedana, like an affective quality of that sensory object. We can call it sensation. Any sound, we feel that sound. It could be pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. It could be something you put into your mouth. Maybe you even do not know what that food is, but very touch of that food with your tongue will give you a pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral sensation. Any color you see, even before you recognize what that object is, just simply appearance of that, object, the color of that object can give you pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral sensation or felt quality. That is Vedana. And from Vedana, where we go in that links? After Vedana, what we have? After sensation, after feeling, what is the next one? Yeah, in the 12 links, it is the craving, tanha. That is an important step, important leap from Vedana paccaya tanha. Because if it's a pleasant sensation, we will wish it for more. If it's an unpleasant sensation, we wish the eradication of that sensation. If it is a neutral sensation, we actually don't care, but actually even though we don't care, but it simply feed our moha, our delusion of experiencer. But anyway, so even whether we develop more wanting of it, whether we develop like resentment towards it, we still are developing the craving. Whether you develop likes, whether you develop dislikes, still we are developing the craving. So what meditation is helping us is to actually this jumping that we are doing all the time from Vedana to Tanha. But of course, we can elaborate that connection between Vedana and Tanha in more detail, like how we perceive it and how we give value to it, how we mentally reflect upon it. There are so many others steps also. We can maybe expand that steps too. But anyway, from initial sensation, our usual reaction to any sensation is some form of craving, in the form of wanting it more or in the form of don't wanting it. And then from Tanha, you know that you will have grasping and grasping more identity and then suffering. Okay. So meditation practice is helping us. If you develop this, strong, mindfulness, strong sati, ability of sati, it can help us to experience the world and experience these sensations and recognize their pleasantness, unpleasantness, and neutral nature, and then stop there without moving to craving, where all the other problems and suffering will arise. So technically, the one important benefit we will get as a result of meditation is able to manage our jumping from Vedana to Tanha, our initial sensation to our craving, our emotional reaction. So we have initial sensation and we have emotional reaction to it. But in between we have a cognitive interpretation. So with meditation we can change that, and then instead of moving to quick emotional reaction, either wanting it or rejecting it, we can develop more equanimity with deep understanding. And that would be the great benefit of meditation. That is like, it's same like, changing the interpretation and change the reaction. But that is how we develop mindfulness. But also we can also think about other forms of meditation. For example, more samatha forms of meditation, developing inner stillness and calmness, and even like developing loving kindness meditation. And if you practice those meditation on a regular basis, and as a result of that, because every day you will purposely generate these wholesome thoughts, and then you actually develop this wholesome pattern in our mind. And as a result of that, actually it can because we purposely generate these wholesome thoughts again and again, loving kindness, compassion, and it can generate a wholesome neural pattern in our mind that will become almost like a second nature to us, because that neural pattern in our brain will be very strong. With a small trigger, it can activate, and we will be in the loving kindness most of the time. Right now, we already have a very strong neural network, neural patterns, which may not necessarily wholesome or healthy. For example, we have a strong neural pattern for anger. Any little little thing can trigger that pattern. If some unpleasant things occur to us, if we experience anything that is not that is disagreeable, that can be a trigger to activate our whole pattern of anger, our whole network of anger. Sometimes it could be like a self-blame or blaming others, and it could be disappointments. Those patterns are already kind of develop in our mind. With little trigger, it can get activated. So we can do the same to our wholesome patterns. So when someone is like behaving badly, instead of, developing, anger or resentment, and maybe if you have trained your loving kindness, that could be a trigger for us to develop loving kindness. I remember one story, one monk from Sri Lanka who visited, our temple in the US. He's quite new to the US, so we were going somewhere in the highway. So one car actually came behind us, and I think the person who was driving a little slower. So the person who came behind was quite unhappy, with our slow driving, I think. So one of our friends was driving the car. He changed the lane and quickly, overtook us, and he quickly came back to the same lane, more like an aggressive manner, he overtook the car. So and then the driver was quite, unhappy about that gesture because someone take over him. But the monk who's sitting behind, he said, "Wow, he is genius." Because when he said how he turned his car and then quickly came to the lane, the visiting monk from Sri Lanka, and he saw that, and for him, he said, "Wow, he's genius, and may he be well and happy." So that was the pattern that activated in the monk's mind, but the driver was quite angry, want to honk. Right? So different things can activate different, patterns in our mind. I'm saying that when you practice loving kindness meditation long enough, and when you experience behavior of other people, sometimes instead of having anger, you can have maybe compassion. Even the unpleasant behavior that can generate compassion in us. So I'm saying that it can definitely help the way we react, because through the loving kindness, this wholesome emotion, by developing them, it can develop a different neural network that can, become a second nature of us. Then these things can also be healing practices, because the more, even you are in deep meditation or breathing or loving kindness, when everything is settled, your mind is not fluctuating, it's settled on a wholesome object or settled on a neutral object like the breath. And when it is really calm and your body is already in the healing mode, is in a parasympathetic mode, not in like a ready to fight mode, but in parasympathetic mode. So therefore, the more we are in deeper samatha meditation or stillness meditation, more time, more minutes you can be in that meditation, it is healing our body. It's definitely healing all the things, it's repairing so many things in our body. So that could be one benefits actually. Mainly the samatha meditation, loving kindness, and this calming meditation is healing our body. The more meditation we can do in that way, the more healing you can get in your body also. And I would say that even there can be some other benefit, like if you practice more loving kindness meditation, you also develop kind of, aura, kind of ambience. That when you go with that loving kindness mind, people tend to believe you. People tend to listen to you. And particularly animals can feel our loving kindness. Have you experienced that? More than human beings. Some human beings can also feel. Because whenever we meet people, there's a non-verbal communication. Before we talk, is when someone meets us, within the first few seconds, the other person has already created an impression of us, even before we talk. That happens, negatively and or positively too, And first few seconds, whenever you meet someone, first few seconds, the other person already created negative or positive impression of us. And of course, through talking, he may change that. Maybe he may confirm, his first impression. But person who's practicing loving kindness on a regular basis, when you meet a person, and even before you talk, because you are developing this loving kindness thoughts again and again, and most probably when you even go to meet that person, you may having a loving kindness attitude of that person. And it is communicated non-verbally through our features, physical features, through our ambience. There are so many other clues human beings know about these things. And of course, animals can feel it. Even an angry, aggressive dog will not come and bark and bite at you if you are really practicing loving kindness. I have those experiences too. When a dog is chasing towards me, I look at him very straight to his eyes, and I genuinely feel, okay, may you be well, happy and peace and settled. And when he come close to me, we got silent. The owner was so surprised, and animals can feel that. So that could be other benefit that we by practicing loving kindness meditation, that you develop this, almost like an invisible aura that you can influence others with that. We can call it energy that you develop. But of course, the most important benefit of meditation is what we develop through our insights that we get through our meditations. As in Satipatthana Sutta, Buddha talked about purification of beings. So samatha meditation can help us to subdue our defilements, but actually it is through the deep inside meditation we can really overcome them. And therefore, the more we practice, through our calm mind, if we start to experience the impermanence of our own life, impermanence of any sensory experience happening within us. And when we directly experience this impermanence, we understand the whole true nature of the existence. And it's not only understanding, but it's also more like acceptance of impermanence. And that is the real change of how we see and react to the world. So in deeper inside meditation, we develop deeper wisdom and also acceptance. So what we really understand with the deeper inside meditation is that nothing is permanent in the world, everything in the constant flow. And nothing is perfect in the world, nothing can fully satisfy us. That is what you call dukkha. You understand that nothing can fully satisfy us, everything is imperfect. And you also understand that nothing is personal, nothing can be owned. That is anatta, selflessness, anatta. So when you deeply understand that nothing, through deeply experience in our inside meditation, is nothing is permanent, nothing is perfect, and nothing is personal or nothing can be owned, and you develop whole different acceptance of this reality. It's more like a radical acceptance of the reality, rather than like trying to change the reality. You develop this deep acceptance, and that makes everything smooth in our life. But that happens gradually. It will not happen at once. So those are the benefits that I can share with you. It's mainly about how to deal with our experiences we are having in our life. It could be major events, major incidents happening in our life. It could be very momentary sensations, sensory encounters we may be having in our life. In all these cases, we will either develop more attached to them, or we will develop resentment towards them. With deep meditation, we will be able to change the way we see them and the way we react them. As a result, we can have more deeper understanding of how our mind works, and we can have more deeper peace and happiness. So ultimately, we will be able to swim well in the currents of our life. No matter how big is the current, no matter how big is the wave, we will have enough knowledge, skillfulness, and strength to swim through. That will be the benefits of meditation. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so then we can have some questions and discussion.
Bhante, just now you mentioned about anatta. Anatta?
Anatta, yeah.
How can we see it during meditation? Because anatta is a part that is so difficult to see. So to realize that also.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I mean, one very, very easy way to understand, anatta, experience anatta, is that when you sit down for meditation, you want to pay attention to your breath, but you can't. Okay, so you sit for meditation, you know how difficult it is to keep our mind focused on one object. But what you want is to focus your mind on the breath. But can you do it at once, at our will? No, it will take training. Simply because you want to focus your mind on the breath alone, it's not going to happen. And so whenever we sit for meditation, any difficulty that we experience in meditation is a proof that we are not in control of our own mind and not even in our own body. If we are in full control, actually, if we are in full control of our mind and body, we should be able to, keep our mind any place we want. We should be able to think only things that I want to think. And we should be able to not to think about anything that we don't want to think. But can we do it? And if it's under our control, we should be able to focus our mind any place we want and keep our mind as long as we want. But we can't do it. So one meaning of anatta is that we are not. I mean, we can't control. We are not the controller. And there's no owner to our experience. There's no controller to our experience. It all happens due to causes and conditions. So understanding the lack of a controller, understanding the lack of an owner, is the deep understanding of anatta. And of course, when you, let's say you with training, real anatta, that is like one initial understanding of anatta. But with training, we will keep our mind on, breathing or any other object, and we develop some kind of stability, some kind of calmness in the mind. Then we have open awareness to see, the three characteristics of anything. So it could be any experience occurring to us. It could be a sound coming to our ear, and we see like a sound is not really one thing. You notice how sound is arising as a result of causes and conditions, the sound waves, and also the eardrum, and our previous memories about it. And you start to directly experience the very forming of this experience. The sound we think that was out there is really not there. It is arising right at that time due to the sound waves and the eardrum and our previous memory. And you directly experience the very arising of that sound and understand that it is just arising. There was no sound before, and after I heard that sound is gone forever, it was just arised at that moment due to causes and condition. I didn't make that sound happen, and it happened due to causes and condition. So it could be a sensation, physical sensation, an itch. In that state, your mind is fully calm, stable, and now you are opening awareness to see the three characteristics of your experiences. Maybe an itch occurring. You notice the arising of itch, come into the peak of it, and if you don't react, it will subside by itself, and see the impermanence, and see that you didn't make that happen. You didn't purposely, forcefully make it disappear. It occurred due to causes and conditions, and it disappeared due to causes and lack of causes and conditions. You see this causal mechanism of experience. Those things happen without an owner or controller, and that is non-self.
Meditation is knowing oneself. Which is, you mentioned deeper knowledge on how our mind works. Is trying to understand ourselves. Yesterday, there were two statements brought up, which is, there is no such thing as mind. The mind is an activity of the body. How do you reconcile based on your experience?
Praise you said earlier, the meditation is knowing yourself. It's a very modernist Western understanding of meditation. You know, we just learned that meditation is the cultivation of mental skills. But there's a part of that, like meditation is knowing yourself is a very secular, modernist, Western way of understanding the meditation. But there is a part of, like if we say Buddhist understanding of bhavana, an important part of bhavana is to understand the 5 aggregates. You can call it that 5 aggregates is the provisional self. In the provisional self, that every one of us are constantly constructing these 5 aggregates which make up our own self, not in the permanent sense, but the provisional self. So there's the part of Buddhist meditation is to understand how this self is constructed. Yeah. So your question was that there's no such thing called mind. But then you say that it's only physical condition.
Mind is an activity of the body.
That will be the biological understanding of the maybe more of a scientific biological understanding of the mind. Many scientists or many psychologists would say that, the mind is simply the brain states, changes of the body, but that is not the Buddhist understanding. And Buddhist understanding explains that mind, there's no such thing called mind as a permanent entity. Even when you think about 5 aggregates, there are at least 4 processes are related to what you call mind. But in Buddhism, we freely talk like mind. We have chitta, to understand, say mind. But when you deeply understand, it's not one single entity, but it's a constant process. But cannot be reduced to physical conditions. Physical body, let's say, nama rupa is a supportive condition, but mind has its own reality. So to say that mind is simply a state of, like, what you say? Activity of the body. Mind is only an activity of the body, is not a Buddhist understanding, but it is a materialistic understanding of the mind. Yeah. Buddhist understanding of mind would be like the physical state and the mental states, they rely on each other, and so mind needs a physical or biological base to function, but as long as we have craving, it can continue. So it cannot be reduced to the body. Yeah.
I would like to know, between Samatha and Vipassana meditation, how do we know that we are ready, to move on to Vipassana? Since 12 links of dependent origination is so important, and if we do not clarify or have the knowledge of 12 links of dependent origination, and we move on to Vipassana without the Dhamma knowledge, will this bring harm to us when we try to practice with our limited knowledge? Thank you, Bhante.
Yes, Sister Saddha, yes. We have to have right understanding of Samma Ditti, that is the beginning of our practice. So it's very important to have, some form of familiarity with the teachings of the Buddha. Some theoretical understanding is necessary, because otherwise, if we simply observe our experiences, we will use our own biases to understand them. So it's really important to have familiarity with the, Buddhist teachings and how the Buddha has explained those things, because that can be a guideline for us to examine our own experience. But even with the knowledge of the the Dhamma, but we had to keep some open mind too, like not to be fully fully biased even to the Dhamma, but having that as a guideline, we need to give priority to our experiences. But having that knowledge can help us. So your question is that how we know that we are ready for Vipassana meditation. Actually, Vipassana meditation can be practiced at any time, even in our normal, life also. As long as you have this viewpoint of, seeing the impermanence, and you are already doing Vipassana, but we will not fully experience it if you don't have, enough stillness of the mind. So therefore, we can practice Vipassana at any time, but how effective that insight, how powerful that insight going to be depends on the level of samadhi that we have. So if you have little samadhi, we have little insights. If you have deeper samadhi, we have deeper insights. So I would say that don't wait, don't delay, having the Vipassana attitude, experiencing the impermanence. Even when you are driving and stay outside, if you see any situation that can teach you about the impermanence, contemplate on that and try to digest that concept. So we can do it. We can have that attitude or a viewpoint of Vipassana all the time. But we will directly. But the important part of Vipassana is understanding the impermanence of our own body and mind, our own five aggregates. That is the key. For us to experience the impermanence of our own five aggregates, we need quite high level of samadhi. So then we need a teacher, first, have enough samadhi that's stable enough for you to turn your attention to, arising of the five aggregates. But even so, I would say that we will maintain Vipassana attitude and viewpoint all the time. But when we want a deeper, direct insight experience, we need to develop a quite high level of samadhi. And to the point that actually, initially when we pay attention on object, we always have to come back to the object, come with all distraction. But there'll be a point in training that you can be steadily be with the object, without, much struggle. After you stay there quite long, and that will be a good time to have a little bit open awareness, to be ready to observe, examine any experience occurring, the impermanence and the other stuff. Yeah.
I would like, just now you mentioned about the reflective meditations.
Which one?
Is it reflective meditation? Reflections meditations. I think it's very important to reflect our life. But my question is very much focused on the practice. Because when we talk about reflections, which means we keep thinking, So, is there any method or any structural things that we actually need to focus, when we do this kind of meditation? Because once we think, which means a lot of things come into our mind, and what are the things that we should focus, and what are the outcomes we want to derive?
Yeah, thank you, sister, for that question. What I mean by reflections meditation is, in Pali we call anusati meditation. Anusati. There are at least 6, actually altogether 10 anusati, including the breath. So there are specific reflection meditation, not anything to reflect. And of course you can reflect on the virtues of the Buddha. That is one guidance, you reflect on the virtues of the Buddha, his great wisdom, great compassion. You can focus on the 9 virtues we recite, or we can focus on one virtue and keep reflecting on that again and again, and fill your mind with deep appreciation and admiration of the virtues of the Buddha. So in the same way, you can also reflect on the virtues of the Dhamma and virtues of the Sangha. And you can also reflect on our own generosity. Like, let's say the any moments that you were able to let go. Any moment that you were able to let go, like let go of a material thing, like you donate, or any time that you were able to let go of your, any opinion, So any moments of letting go, you later reflect on that, not claiming the ownership to the act, but reflecting the purity you experience while you are making donation, while you are letting go. So our own experiences of, letting go, our own experience of generosity can also be a part of, reflection. And then the important reflection is reflection on death. Reflection on the death. Death of all beings, and also death of the imminent death of ourselves. And understanding the two forms of, contemplating on the two forms of death. One is the momentary death happening every time in our bodily and mental life, that our body is keep renewing every moment. Our cells are dying and our hairs are dropping, our skin is dropping and new skin is developing, and our mental attitude, our desires, our preferences, our opinions keeps changing. So every time we are dying also. But at the same time, there's also conventional death, and we are all going to that direction. So contemplating the inevitable death and reminding ourselves of that, and reminding the inevitability and also the unpredictability of that death, and keep reminding of that will motivate us for the practice. So the death is one topic. So there are standard, like recommended 10 topics of reflection, not any reflection here. I just shared a few of them.
Yesterday, we were arguing on, not arguing, actually, we were discussing on one topic. What's the difference between thoughts and mind? Is the thoughts belonging to oneself, while the mind is a universal? Then when we meditate, because you say the first part under Satipatthana is purification of mind. So is it purification of thoughts or purification of mind?
Here we have to go to some technical terms of the mind. The different, and so because we had to use language for that. But let's go to the original terms, used in the Pali. Actually, in the Satipatthana, it said the Sattanang Visuddhya, the purification of the beings. But there is also reference of Chitta Visuddhi, purification of the mind. So the term used there is Chitta. Chitta is for the mind. But Chitta is the term that is meant for collective, the meaning, mainly the emotional aspect of our mind. So I think maybe we had to think about the three important terms used by the Buddha to refer to different function of the mind. Again, actually not the mind, different function, different mental functions, which we can call conventionally the mind, but different mental functions. That is Chitta, Mano, and Vijnana. There's a very profound teachings given by Bhante Punnaji on these three terms, Chitta, Mano, and Vijnana. So maybe the thoughts, when you talk about thoughts, this would be more like a rational cognizing. Those thoughts could be part of what you call Mano. And then Chitta is more like the emotional quality, and more like a collective term. In many Buddhist discourses, Chitta is used as a very comprehensive term to refer to all the contents, all the mental processes, but including the emotional aspect. But when you say Mano, it does not include the emotional aspect. When you say Vijnana, it is a very initial sensory awakening, like our eyes open to a sensory object, very initial sensory, experiences or encounter. Mano is more like thinking, and then chitta is more emotional and also the whole thing. So the question is that the difference between thoughts and mind, actually there's no such thing called as a mind as an entity. The collection of all the thoughts, collection of all the patterns that we develop as a result of previous thinking can be called so-called mind or chitta. But the thoughts will be what is really happening. What is real there are the thoughts, constant occurring of thoughts. As a result of constant occurring of thoughts, or as a result of entertaining thoughts, we have developed patterns. And those could be sankhara and part of the chitta, or the mind. We can conventionally call it mind. But what really exists at any given moment are the thoughts. So thoughts without a thinker, Actually, yeah, this is very interesting, Venerable Sir, because Buddha has never talked about purification of vijnana, never talked about purification of mind, but only purification of chitta. Because chitta is the collection of all the patterns, the accumulation of all the patterns, all the karmic seeds, and everything is what you call chitta. And chitta is to be purified. Because chitta, the patterns, the content, patterns and the seeds are influencing our vijnana and mano. But those vijnana and mano also influence the chitta too, yeah. So when you purify the chitta, and there's no defilements to influence mano, vijnana, yeah. Yeah.
During meditations, the thought arises.
Yeah.
Do we just see and do not react? That is purification?
That's a training, yeah. You observe it, and then notice how it arises, and don't follow it.
But the same thoughts will arise again.
Yes.
Not
the same thought, actually. Similar thought.
Oh, similar.
There's a big difference between the same and the similar. Same thought will never arise. It's gone forever. But similar thought can arise, yes.
Oh.
And you notice it again. And you don't entertain it, you don't follow it if it is unwholesome one.
So by doing that, it will disappear?
It will weaken the pattern. But those thoughts are occurring as a result of a pattern or a habit. If you don't entertain them, you will reduce the pattern.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, yeah. Unwholesome thoughts we don't entertain because we already have those patterns already developed within us, and those are repeating all the time, and a small trigger can activate those patterns and develop all kind of conflicts. So when we recognize a thought, notice it, if it is with the knowledge of the Dhamma, if we recognize that it is not wholesome, we notice it, we observe it, but we don't follow it, don't entertain it. So as a result, we are weakening the unwholesome patterns, or to get angry, get upset, get sad. We are weakening those patterns. So when you continue to do that, and hopefully, ultimately, we will be completely remove all the sankharas, all the patterns of unwholesome, thinking, unwholesome emotions, like jealousy, or the patterns of jealousy, patterns of anger, patterns of sadness. So we will, by not entertaining them, by weakening the pattern, we will gradually reduce and ultimately get rid of all the patterns, all the unwholesome patterns. Then we are free. Anything will not be able to create anger in us. Anything will not be able to create jealousy in us as a result.
Okay, I saw this brought up by Dr. M. Punaji. He mentioned here perception as vinaya, Vijnana. Okay. I thought this is actually consciousness.
When you read Bhante Punnaji, you need to understand that, he has given a very specific definitions of this term, which may not be similar with the normal, ordinary literature. Yeah, usually Vijnana is translated as consciousness. But Bhante Punnaji would like to translate as perception, because, the consciousness is the moment that we start our sensory experience. So he preferred to translate as perception. But in common Buddhist translation, Vijnana is translated as consciousness, and Sanya is translated as perceptions. But Bhante Punnaji will have different translations. Yeah. You mean?
Consciousness. In this method, that means he is actually combine both together, feelings.
No, I think Bhante Punnaji has an argument that most of the English translations are not exactly correct. So he has his own definitions for these terms. So when you read Bhante Punnaji's readings, maybe you have to have another key, because we should not be confused those terms with the terms that we find in common teaching. But maybe if you know the Pali term, that will be easier. Yeah. But anyway, so Vijnana is the initial the encounter of the sensory objects. Become conscious of that. And then Sanya is more like an interpretation of that object. So what English terms we use, because Bhante Punnaji is quite knowledgeable about the different etymology of English. So he tried to try to give a term to most close to that meaning, but they are not standard translation. Yet.
Hi again, Bhante. I would like to seek your clarification, your expert clarification. You see, before we can arrive at Samantha and Vipassana, a lot of unwholesome thought will come to us when we try to meditate. This is my formula. Maybe I'm wrong, please correct me. First thing first, we have to forgive. We send loving kindness to the other party and also to those people we have hurt. So by doing that like many months, not just few weeks, then you will come to a realization that, once you forgive people and you seek for forgiveness by sending loving kindness, it's so easy. You are letting go so many things. And when you sit, you see success. I'm talking about Samantha, But Vipassana, I actually just started. That's why just now I seek your expert opinion. So that is my little sharing. Bhante, thank you.
Thank you, sister. I think that's a great practice, definitely great practice. And meditation also requires, moral, foundation. We have to have our precepts, our vows. One part of that could be like definitely forgiving, and so, of course, if we have, if you have some, issues of struggling with, certain, incident happen in the life, what went through, all of us have gone through all difficulties and challenges. I think it's very important to resolve those things first before we come to meditation, before we do a serious meditation. Because sometimes if you try to learn different techniques of meditation but not addressing those issues, those issues can disturb and can manifest in different ways, so very important, sister, that we start with forgiving and loving kindness, definitely. Yes. And we need to forgive ourselves, and also we need to forgive others too.
Recently, I heard that someone committed suicide about 200 meters away from here. Someone committed suicide about 200 meters away from here. From here, in this neighborhood. So this is a place full of religious worship houses. And it kind of struck me because I come here like two, 3 times a month, and an incident such as that happened right in the midst of a community, a very close-knit community. I felt that while I have the privilege of learning and understanding the Dhamma path, there is someone among us whom we have left out. There is someone in the community who needs help, but I am busy here trying to improve myself. So my question is, because sometimes it gets hard for me to come to this temple, because when I walk around, I see I see real dukkha. It's funny because we all are here to discuss about cessation of dukkha, but so far there hasn't been any question about dukkha. How do I balance, how do I find the equanimity? Because bhavana is actually purification of mind, it's a continuous process. Without disinterest in what is happening in the community. So that's the question.
How we maintain our equanimity or our balance, maybe our focus on practice when there are so many negative things happen around us. Briefly, that is the question, right? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Many places, many areas in the world, and we can think about all different wars going on, in the world right now. And there are communal violence, there are individual, catastrophes, and there are, international conflicts occurring all over the place. So it's not pleasant, and it's not, sometimes it's not fair too. So in such situation, how we can maintain our focus, and can we really focus on our own development when many people are suffering in trouble? Is it too selfish to focus in our own, growth when so many people are having, suffering? So I think what we had to do is actually being compassionate to others and then helping others. We have to make that helping others and being compassionate to others as a part of our practice. So we should, try to reduce others' suffering with, at least with our own behavior, with our lifestyle. We have to be very mindful not to create any more suffering to any others, because people are already suffering. So therefore, we have to be aware of our own behavior that may be contributing to others' suffering, and then follow the precepts and follow the mindful behavior, follow the mindful speech. So by doing that, we are impacting the society. But then there are also other help that we can do, maybe charity work and physical help that we can do. But at the same time, we need to continue to behave compassionately with our speech, with our body, and also we need to organize some helping activities. I think many Buddhist centers are doing that. But at the same time, we also have to have a deep understanding that we will not be able to solve all the problems, of other people. Because it's too complex, and, we can only do some level. We can influence, we can change, but only to some level. We will not be able to change everything. So in that case, we have to have some level of acceptance, because, there are so many other conditions at work. Every person, has their own life story and own karmic energies, and there's a whole social structure that we will not be able to change quickly. So therefore, we need to try to help us as much as we can, but at the same time with deep understanding that I am limited. and understanding, acknowledging one's own limitedness, one's own limitation, is also the part of the practice. You know, I'm an ordinary being. You know, I can only do so much. Maybe I can organize, you get more people, I can do a little bit more. But ultimately, we are limited. And so that is what we call balancing the compassion and equanimity. And acknowledging it, being humble about it, and do whatever I can do within my own capacity is the best course of action we can do. And we are in samsara, and samsara is not a perfect place. So we have to see this suffering all the time. It is a part of the samsara. And imperfection, this suffering is a part of the samsara. It's an opportunity for us to be compassionate. It's an opportunity for us to change our own life. But it is samsara. We have to have some acceptance at the end and develop deep compassion. That is why the teachings of the Buddha, appearance of the Buddhas and enlightened beings are so rare and so precious. And having a human life and having good sensory capacities and being able to have access to the Dhamma is so rare, so precious. So we have to appreciate it so much, because just because someone is a human being doesn't mean that it's a precious birth, because if we don't have access to the wisdom teachings, life can be in trouble. So we have to really appreciate the opportunity that we have to know and listen to this Dhamma. And we should also try to share that Dhamma with others as much as we can. Sometimes not by preaching, not by saying, but actually being an example to others. So again, coming back to our own practice, stick to our own practice and try to help as much as we can, try to compassionate. If you can't, help, but at least try to reduce the suffering that we are creating to others sometimes without our knowing, and deeply understand our limitations to change the world.
Bhante, I'm not here to ask a question, but I'm here to end the session. I think Bhante is tired. I think I can see it in his face. He needs a rest. We shall end early today. Bhante, before we end, could we conduct the Anumodana?
Okay, let us conclude the session with sharing the merits by coming to this talk and contemplating on the great teachings of the Buddha and maintaining our mind free from defilements during this session. We have generated so much goodness, so much merits in our heart. Let us now share these merits with all others. Let us recall to our mind whatever departed family member or relative who has passed away, and share these good merits with them. And especially today, I would like to share, I'd like to recall to our minds our sister Bodhi, who have been so helpful to organize and manage this kind of Dhamma programs, and we dearly miss her. Let us share this message with our sister Bodhi, wishing her a smooth, steady journey towards the enlightenment. May Sister Bodhi and all other teachers, including our teacher, Venerable Punnaji, and also our great teacher, late Chief K. Dhammananda, and all other venerable monks who passed away. Let us think about all of them and share this place with them. And also bring to your mind your own relatives, your family members who passed away. May they all be benefited from these merits. May they all be well, happy, and have a smooth journey towards the enlightenment. Idang me ñātinang hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. Idang me ñātinang hotu sukita hontu ñātayo. idam me ñātinang hotu sukhita hontu ñātayo. Also share these merits with all other living beings, including all the devas, celestial beings, and all other beings in all different realms. If there's any being who would like to share this kind of merits, may he or she do so. May all living beings share our merits. May all living beings be well, happy, and peaceful. Ettavatace amhi sambhatang punya sampadam sabbe devanumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatace amhi sambhatang punya sampadam sabbe bhuta numodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavatace amhi sambhatang punya sampadang sabbe satta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.